Good morning to all. I'm Sukumati from Department of Computer Applications. In this video, I'm going to discuss about introduction, types of layer in OSI model, and functions of each layer. Introduction. OSI model stands for Open System Interconnection Model. OSI model is a model. With the help of this model is used to transfer the data from one node to the another node with the help of this architecture. OSI model defines how data is to be transferred from one computer to another computers. OSI model was introduced by International Organization for Standard in 1984. There are 7 layers in OSI model. They are application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and physical layer. Each layer can perform their own task. Each layer is self-contained, so the task is assigned to each layer. They can perform independently. OSI architecture. There are 7 layers. In this layer only, the user can perform transactions and transmission of the data from one node to the another node. Next, we move functions of the layer. First one is a physical layer. The main functionality of the physical layer is used to transmit the data from one node to the another node. It is the lowest layer of the OSI model. It can establish and maintenance and deactivate the physical connections. With the help of this diagram, it can inform to you. The physical layer can accept the data from the data link layer and transfer it through the transmission media to the receiver. The functions of the physical layer. There are various functions of physical layer are available. One is physical characteristics of interface and media, representation of bits, data rate, synchronization of bit, line configuration, physical topology, and transmission mode. First, we are going to discuss about physical characteristics of interface and media. The physical characteristic of interface and media is nothing but is an interface between the user and the transmission medium. Transmission medium is a path. Through the path only the user can transmit the data from one devices to the another devices. There are various types of transmission media available. One is wired and another one is wireless technology. In wired technology, with the help of the wire only, we can use to possible transmit the data from one node to the another node. There are various types of wires is available that is called as a coaxial cable, twisted pair cable, and fiber optic cable. Next, you have to move to wireless technology. Without a wire, how the data is to be transferred from one node to the another node, the concept had been included in the wireless technology. The examples of wireless technologies are radio wave, microwave, cellular telephony, and satellite. Next, you have been moved to representation of bit. Physical layer, they can receive the data from the upper layer that is called as a data link layer and convert into number of bits. Because the machine can understand only in the form of binary numbers. For the reason only, our language had been converted into number of bits. Whenever it's to be transmitted, automatically the bit is converted into signals. That is either the electrical or optical signals. Physical layer use a concept of encoding. That is how zeros and ones are converted into signals. Next, we move to the data rate. Physical layer also define the transmission data rate. That is number of bits transmitted per second. With the help of the data rate, one you have to calculate the speed, how much speed you have to take it to transfer the data from source to the destination. Next, we move to synchronization of bit. Synchronization of bit is nothing but the sender and the receiver must be synchronized at the bit levels. On the other hand, receiver and the sender must be synchronized at the clock. Next, we have to move to line configuration. It defines the way how the two or more devices can be connected with each other. There are 2 types of line configuration is available. One is multi-point and another one is called as a point-to-point. Multi-point is nothing but use a single link, several devices can be connected together. The next concept is called as a point-to-point. Point-to-point is nothing but each and every device, only the 2 node that can use in the point-to-point configuration. The connection of the 2 devices that called as a point-to-point. In multi-point, can possible to connect several devices. In point-to-point, we can possible to connect only the 2 devices. Next, we move to topology. Topology is nothing but the way of connecting the network, that is called as a topology. There are several ways of topology is available. One is bus topology, ring topology, tree topology, star topology, mesh topology, and hybrid topology. In mesh topology, each and every node used to be connected with each others. In star topology, each and every node had be connected to the central devices. In ring topology, each node had be connected with some adjacent nodes, nearest adjacent nodes. Bus topology, each devices is had to be connected to the central link. So these are the various types of topologies to be available to connect to form the network. Next, we have been moved to transmission mode. It can define the direction of transmission between the two nodes. There are three types of transmission mode is available. One is simplex, off duplex, and full duplex. Simplex is nothing but is a one-way transaction. The single node can transmit the data to the receiver, but the receiver cannot transmit again to the sender. The next concept is off duplex. The sender and receiver can transmit the data, but not at the same time. The next concept is full duplex. The sender and the receiver can transmit the data at the same time. The concept is included in the full duplex. The next layer is data link layer. The data link layer is a very important layer in OSI model. It's a second layer of the OSI model. The data link layer can accept the data from the network layer and it have to pass to the physical layer. Whenever you can transmit the data between two devices on the same network, only physical layer and data link layer is enough. The data link layer can accept the data from the network layer, and you can assume that if the data is to be very large, in that case, it can divide the data into number of frames. It also takes the responsibility of error control and flow control. Next, we have to see what are the functions of the data link layer. The functions of data link layer is framing, physical addressing, flow control, error control, and access control. Framing. Framing is nothing but they can accept the data from the network layer and can divide if the data is to be large. In that case, it can divide the data into number of frames, and it's also attached some header and tiler to the frame. Next, you had been moved to physical addressing. It's a source address and the designation address. That address only you can call as a physical address. This address is can add the header to the frame. Next is flow control. Flow control is nothing but can intimate the sender how much data you can send to the receiver before getting an acknowledgement. With the help of the diagram, we can intimate the sender can send the frame to the receiver. After getting the acknowledgement only, the sender can send the next data to the receiver. Inside the frame, it can intimate how much bit of data had been transmitted. That information had to be intimated to the sender by the flow control. Next is error control. The error control include two techniques that is called error detection and another is called error correction. Error detection is nothing but can used to detect the error and find out the errors. And also ask if it is find some error, they can ask the sender to retransmit the data again. Error correction is nothing but find out the error and correct them automatically and does not ask the sender to retransmit the data again. The next concept is access control. Access control is nothing but if two or more devices are connected to the same communication channel, then the data link layer protocols are used to determine which device has control over the link at the same time. Next, have been moved to network layer. Network layer is nothing but the third layer of the OSI model. If we want to transmit the data from one network to another different network, in the case only we need the network layer. The network layer can accept the data from the transport layer and you have to be passed to the below layer that is called as a data link layer. Next, you have to see what are the functionality of the network layer. There are two functionality we have. One is logical addressing. Next one is called routing. Logical addressing is nothing but the IP address. Each and every network of the computer have their own IP address. That IP address we have included in the network layer of the logical addressing. Next, you have been moved to routing. Routing is a most important concept in the network layer. The routing is used to find out the shortest path from the source to the destination. Next, with the example of the network layer. In this example, A is one network and G and H is another network, P and M is another third network. In this example, they can intimate how the data from one network from A is had to be transferred the data to the another network is in P. Here, A and P is a logical address, 1020 is a physical address. Next, you have the transport layer. Transport layer is a fourth layer of the OSI model. This layer can ensure that the message are transferred in the order in which they are sent and no duplication of data is to be had in the transmission. The main responsibility of the transport layer is used to transfer the data correctly and completely. They also ensure that whether the data sent by the sender is correctly reached to the destination without any modification. It receives the data from the upper session layer and converted it into number of segments, whether it is the very large packet. Next, you have been what are the two protocols used in these layers? One is a transmission control protocol, another one is called as user datagram protocol. Transmission control protocol is nothing but is a connection oriented protocol. Whenever the user send the data to the receiver, automatically they can get the acknowledgement. With the help of the acknowledgement, the sender can know whether the data is to be correctly issued by the receiver or not. The next protocol is UDP protocol. UDP is connection list protocol. Does not get any acknowledgement after sending the data by the sender. Without getting acknowledgement, that the sender does not know whether the data is correctly reached to the destination or not. So this type of functionality we have in the user datagram protocol. Next, we move function of the transport layer. The various functions of transport layer is available. One is service point addressing, segmentation and assembly, flow control, and another is called error control. Flow control and error control is already have in the data link layer. So the repetitions of these two concepts is have in the transport layer. This is the main disadvantages of the OSI model. First, you had been service point addressing. Each and every device have ordered several apps that is called as applications. That application address only you can be called as a service point addressing. The responsibility of the network layer is used to transmit the data from one computer to another computer, and the responsibility of the transport layer is used to transmit the message to the correct process. Next, segmentation and reassembly. The transport layer receives the message from the upper layer session layer. If it feels the message is to be very large, in that case, it can divide the message into number of segments and can assign the sequence number to each segment. With the help of the sequence number only, they can arrange the data at the destination in the correct order. Next, we move to example of transport layer. Here, how the data from the computer A can send the data to computer B with different networks, that is through the internet. J and K is nothing but the service point addressing is added in transport layer. In network layer, A and P is a logical address they can add it in the network layer. In additionally, data link layer, they can add it in the header physical address. So whenever you can transfer the data from source to the destination, you can add three address: service point address, logical address, and another one is called as a physical address. Next, you have been moved to session layer. Session layer is a third layer in the OSI model. The session layer is used to establish, maintenance, and synchronize the intersection between communicating devices. The session layer is used to accept the data from the upper layer, presentation layer, and had to be transferred to the transport layer. The functions of the session layer are dialog control, and next is synchronization. Dialog control. Session layer act as a dialog control that create a dialog between two processes, or we can say that it allows a communication between two processes which can be either of duplex or full duplex. Next, you have been moved synchronization. Already the synchronization concept is available in the physical layers. The same thing is to be repeated in the session layer. Is also one disadvantages of the OSI model. In synchronization of the session layer, add some checkpoints by transmitting the data in a sequence. If some error occurs in the middle of the transmission of data, the transmission will take place again from the checkpoint. The process is called as synchronization and recovery. Next layer is called as a presentation layer. The presentation layer can accept the data from the upper application layer and transfer to the lower layer. It is called as a session layer. It mainly concerns with the semantics and syntax of the information exchange between the two systems. The presentation layer also can be called as a syntax layer. The various functionality of the presentation layer are translation, encryption, and compression. Translation is nothing but the source, so the information is to be transferred from that is a sender format into common format. The presentation layer at the receiver side, again the common format is to be converted into receiver dependent format. This type of translation is to be done in the presentation layer of translation. Next, encryption. Encryption nothing but our plain text is converted into ciphertext. For security purpose only they can convert our own message plain text that be converted into some other text that is called ciphertext. Next is nothing but compression. Compression is nothing but number of bits is to be reduced during transmission. For example, you can consider as a multimedia messages or video files, audio files. If the file is to be very large, it's very difficult to transfer it through the transmission media from one node to the another node. In that case, only when the file is to be very large, we need to compress the files. This technique had to be available in the presentation layer. Next, we have been moved to application layer. Application layer is a last layer in the OSI model. In this layer only the user can directly interact with the applications. What are the protocol we used in this layer is called HTTP protocol, FTP protocol, SMTP protocol, etc. That's all. These are the various layers is available in the OSI model. Through this layer only the user can transmit the data from one node to the another node within the network or from different networks. Thank you.